Welcome to the Black Sparrow Media Internet Broadcast Network.
You are listening to Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a podcast about Linux, open source, and amateur radio, for everyone. Now here are your hosts, Cheryl, W5MOO, Russ, K5TUX, and Bill, NE4RD.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome. You have tuned in to episode number 570 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the interwebs. And we thank you very much for being here. This will be a deep dive episode, so we're glad you tuned in for our in-depth topic for tonight. And we'll get to that in just a second, but before we do, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. For the on assignment, Cheryl, W5MOO. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
All right, so that means we're here. And tonight we have a guest. We have a man named Luke. Luke Bryan, to be specific, call sign Kilo Juliet 7 Bravo Kilo Hotel, who lives out in Oregon and has created software called RepeaterSTART, which has actually been mentioned on this show almost 4.5 years ago at this point. So that being said, it means it's been around a while. So thank you very much, Luke, for being here to talk about your software. Really appreciate it. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Yeah. Yeah, you want me to start off with the some of the story of the background of this project?
Well, if you would, just give us a little background on you as a person, how you got into ham radio, that kind of thing. And then if you want to, you can just launch right into RepeaterSTART and tell us what it is and why you came to create it.
Yeah, so I started into ham radio, many years ago, mostly to be able to communicate with something that's more powerful than just a little handheld radio. It's neat that you can go and get repeaters and even internet-linked repeaters that you can talk to people, all over the world, at least in our area, with the digital Yaesu or a digital DMR. Honestly, I've been a technician for... I never got a general license or got into HF much, but more into the handhelds. Handheld VHF, UHF. I'm a longtime web developer. Even back in college, did Python, PHP, Java. Back in 2019, there was quite some excitement for this Librem phone. You may have remembered that when it was a big deal with the pre-orders. So I had pre-ordered it years before, and there was quite some excitement for it in the Linux world. It turned out to have some problems, such as Zoom or other common Linux apps wouldn't work on the ARM and not on Intel, which most Linux computers are Intel. Anyway, when I pre-ordered it, I thought, how are we going to get our apps on it? How am I going to get the repeater app to find local repeaters wherever I am in the woods or wherever I am in the world? Yeah, for some reason, all of the ham radio repeater apps were for iOS or Android. I wondered why. Why do we not want to browse for nearby repeaters on a Linux laptop or on your Raspberry Pi? So yeah, I had used a Linux laptop for years, and yeah, I wondered why some of the common apps were not available for the Ubuntu laptop or for your Linux phone. The more popular ham radio repeater apps developer wasn't interested in building the non-iOS Android version. They weren't really interested in giving their database to build another app. So I had started with IRLP and All-Star and other systems, and by permission I got them imported to a new system, a website, hereham.com. So this project has many repeaters around the world, widely used in the US and the UK. It's a repeater listing that anyone can go and use and contribute to and plug in their favorite repeater. Every summer there was a repeater contest, and people from all over may go and enter a new repeater that doesn't exist in the listing, comment on any repeaters that are wrong, and yeah, that's free to browse and free to download, free to use in other applications or your own application off of the website.
How does HearHam relate exactly to RepeaterSTART? Is it the back end? Is that the idea?
Yeah, the RepeaterSTART is the Linux application, Linux and Windows application. You can go and download onto your desktop for free. It will pull the list of repeaters off of that free list that we've been working on. And yeah, you can see online or offline the list of the repeaters on a map with a topo map and a listing from closest to furthest away.
All right. Before we get into like installing and using the application, talk a little bit about what you wrote it in, what the code base is, and how you've licensed it.
It's a Python app. Actually, it's started out as the libOSM GPS map, the OpenStreetMap GPS map. I was just fiddling with that a little bit. I added a list underneath it, added some other features, and eventually made something that was kind of useful, I thought. So I posted up for the other ham radio users, showed it to our local ham radio club. They looked at that and had some ideas online, some suggestions. It has expanded quite a bit since the last 4 years when I just made it for myself.
You've mentioned that you wanted something that was available for laptops and Linux PCs and Linux phones, but I did see something about the fact that there is at least an Android version for this as well. Is that something that you're involved in, or did someone port it to Android instead?
Yes, this has now been ported to iOS and Android. That is when I had ported fairly recently in full and with the complete feature set. Actually, there are some newer features like your own custom list of repeaters, and plugging it in by URL does not work on the Android and iOS. But yeah, all of the regular ham radio ham repeater features work on the iOS and the Android.
All right, well that's cool. I noticed you've got the files hosted on SourceForge, and I think maybe they're also on GitHub. I know the project is there, but I didn't know if the latest version was also there. And you have it. I know you have Deb format available, so people who are using Debian and Ubuntu can just do a quick install of it. I did find it in the Arch AUR. There's at least in newer Arch versions, there's a version conflict with one of the sub packages that I managed to fix and got it working. So it can be installed on Arch. And I think there was there a tarball or something else, or was there like an RPM? I can't remember what all the ways you had.
I had not built a RPM for it. For most Debian Ubuntu systems, you just double click on the deb file and install it, or install it from the command line. I did build it when I was trying a PinePhone and Manjaro Linux, which comes with it. I tried Manjaro Linux, which was I think was the best. The GDK version was the best mobile Linux that I had tried, and at the time, I think it was working with RepeaterSTART using that PKG build file. That was quite some time ago, and there has not been many people installing that one. I will have to check that. I did not check and fix that in quite some time.
I can tell you what I did to get it working if you're interested, and the package build worked for me except for that one version inconsistency, and I am running Manjaro with KDE as the desktop, and it works just fine. So no problems
Great.
there. And I also see that you have exe files, so that would suggest that there's a Windows version.
Yeah, I use the Python PyInstall. That tool that turns the Python libraries and applications into an exe. So yes, it is installable just like a normal Windows exe as well.
All right, very good. And I assume since you have an iOS and Android version, those are available for download from the relevant app stores. So
yeah, those are available. Those come with a premium feature that adds the ability to give you step-by-step instructions for the repeaters that you're looking at. To hit the little question mark, and you get some help for over a dozen common radios, step-by-step, what button you press and what steps you go and what menus you go to plug it into the radio.
Well, that's a nice little thing. So let's talk about the application itself. I know when you start it up, you get a map screen and a list, and there are some configuration and option buttons at the bottom. So maybe you can go over the UI and how to traverse using RepeaterSTART.
On the top, of course, there's a map, whether you're on the mobile or on the desktop. You should, first of all, scroll around, maybe zoom in to any areas that you're interested. Any maps that you download that you're viewing there will be downloaded onto your device so that when you're offline, you'll be able to see the maps there as well. If you have it centered on your position or some place in the woods that you're planning to go, you will see on the bottom of the screen listed from closest to the center of the screen to farthest from the center of the screen the call sign and the frequency of your local repeaters. So yeah, that will show the description, maybe a website for getting more information, adding a comment about that repeater if you note that it's down or that it's has some issue. You can right-click, add your comment, go to the repeaters page, or go to the repeaters URL if it has one, or hold tap on a mobile device, right-click on a computer.
So does that update your local reference to the database, or does that get pushed up? Like if you're offline and you make a comment, will that get pushed up when you're back online, or is it just for your own?
Comment page and the repeater page are all online features. Yeah, you can log in and you can comment. You can go and hit a favorite on your favorite repeaters, and then you can get notifications of any comments about the repeaters. You can add repeaters or favorite them or search all over the repeater database online. But offline you will have whatever is the latest data that was last downloaded when your computer was online.
I did notice also in the list of repeaters that there's a play button which suggests that you might be able to listen to a repeater online if it's on, like Broadcastify or something, or is that for something else?
To be honest, I haven't tested that feature recently, but if you have a RTL SDR, you plug it into your computer, that is supposed to play that frequency off of your RTL SDR, so you can just hit play, hit pause, hit play and pause on the next one and listen to that repeater if it is close enough for you to hear.
I know that you said that the basic idea is moving around on the map, centering on a location, and getting repeater list by distance, but what about like a search feature? Is that an option as well?
So there's a little search icon. You can search for any city or peak or landmark as long as you're online, and you can go directly to that. It'll spit back a list of all the possibilities when you search for a mount or a peak or a city. You just double click it, or or click it and select it, and it'll center it right on that area. So if you're looking for a certain peak, you just enter it, double-click, select your peak, and it will center it, and then show the repeaters that are closest to that, what frequency they are on, description, and PL tone, any other info that you need.
The mapping itself, is that still done using OpenStreetMap and their API data for mapping?
RepeaterSTART has a topo map thanks to Mapbox. With Mapbox, you can see not just what is nearby on the map, but how many mountain ranges a repeater has between it and your location, looking at the topo lines. That may be helpful for pointing you in the right direction, or seeing which one is maybe close, but it's actually over a hill that you can't see. So, Mapbox has excellent offline and online vector maps, outdoor maps with topo map.
Oh, very good. Well, it definitely sounds, I mean, I know you said at the beginning you were kind of focused on VHF and UHF, and this definitely sounds like an excellent resource for that, because, I mean, some of the other databases don't contain like line of sight information, topo data, stuff like that. It's just a list. Obviously, there's some additional features here to help making communication VHF and higher frequencies easier. So on the database, you said you basically created the database from scratch. You pulled from other resources like the IRLP project and stuff like that, where there are available lists, and then you kind of augmented from there. So is the only way to access this data from RepeaterSTART, or are there API tools or other ways to access the repeater data if you want to create your own representations?
Yeah, if you go to heareham.com/repeaters, it tells you about JSON API. I know there's at least one other app that tells you nearby repeaters that they're using it with. Anyone can grab that JSON file, parse the data, and use it to see what are the nearby repeaters. Yeah, it is crowdsourced. A lot of people go in and add a repeater from time to time, add one nearby their city, any repeater that they find that is not on the map or in their area yet. Every summer there's a contest to see who can add or modify the most repeaters, either by clicking add or commenting on the repeater. There's an issue about a repeater, wrong PL tone, or that the repeater is down. You can make a note in a comment.
All right, so I did that because I happen to have a repeater that I am the trustee of about 50 feet from here. So who's maintaining that data? Is it just you? Like when those come in, are you vetting them, or are they just automatic, or how's that working?
I am approving any of them that show and are added to the list. Yes.
Okay. Well, I see that mine is in the database, so you must have approved it.
Great.
I think there was some mention of the fact that you were looking for submissions because you wanted to flesh out the database and make it more useful by, of course, having more entries in there. And the more data there is, the better it obviously works. So happy to add something to it.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned something earlier about a premium option that was available with the Android. So what does it give you, and how much is it? And is it part of like all of the different versions, or is it just for the mobile apps?
The Android one specifically has the same premium step-by-step instructions that you can get, which is hopefully a lot more handy than going and finding the several chapters of your manual of your radio if you have the manual handy. So, yeah, that's a newer feature, premium feature, 15 one-time purchase for the iOS or Android. $2 a month for the Linux or Windows to get a license key and updates. The app, of course, is free. It's just downloading these instructions to your computer.
So would that be, for example, like if you had a repeater that was DMR enabled and you wanted to program your DMR radio to use that repeater, this would give you guidance on how to do that?
Yes, there is one DMR radio in the instructions right now. So yeah, you hit the little question mark icon on a DMR repeater. You'll see all of the radios that do not support that mode or that do not support that frequency will be grayed out, unsupported. So you can see which radio will support that. You click it, and it will have a step-by-step instruction of how to operate that repeater, how to plug in that frequency and get connected to it.
All right, sounds good. So I'm trying to think if we have anything else. Bill, in listening to this conversation, have you come across anything you wanted to ask or embellish?
Not really. I'm just kind of trying to play around with it to get it to work on Fedora, but that's just where I'm at with it.
Where it's absolutely not supported because
yes, absolutely unhappy for sure.
If you use a convert tool, it should work. I mean, it's just Python code, so it should work on just about anything. It's not something you have to recompile.
Yeah, it seems to be complaining about the OSM GPS map library version and the WebKit version too. So
yeah, I think WebKit was the one that was the issue for me. It was like it wanted 4.0 and mine was 4.1 or something like that.
Yeah, mine's 4.1 as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a simple fix. It was going into the build script and just changing it from changing the check from 4.0 to 4.1. That fixed it for me. Have you tried like Alien on it to see if it'll just take the RPM and make a deb out of it?
No, I don't do that stuff.
And I don't think I actually asked this question specifically earlier on, but is this open source? Does the GitHub have the source code, or is it just have the downloads?
Yes, the GitHub does have the full Linux and Windows source code. If you are wanting to revise any features or putting pull requests would be appreciated. If you can find any build script for Fedora or whatever operating system that you're working on.
Hey, Bill, you might be able to contribute to open source.
Sure.
I was actually going to ask if you were accepting pull requests, and apparently you are, so very good.
Yeah, pull requests or suggestions. I had participated in Hacktoberfest and did a demo once or twice.
Yeah, did that result in anything? Did you get any feature requests or updates or anything like that to improve the software?
I just showed how I fixed one bug that I had been meaning to look at over a Zoom call. Just an example of what you do with a pull request and git commit, and didn't have very much of a turnout, but anyone interested in helping an open source project with more ham radio features would be appreciated.
Well, I'm glad we can put that out there for you. Usually we end these by asking our interviewee if they have anything else they want to say, like there's a feature we didn't talk about, something we missed, or something you just want to get off your chest. We'll let you do that now.
I think that just about does it. Yeah, I've done a demo at a couple ham radio clubs, how to set up your radio with the repeaters nearby. I'm planning to go to the Rick Rial, Oregon, February 15th ham fair, and also show some Faraday cage boxes that I built for sale this coming Saturday.
Do you go to Hamvention at all, or
Hamvention? I think that's East Coast.
Well, it's central. It's in Ohio.
Oh, yeah. I am on West Coast. I've been to Pacificon. I've gone to CPAC once. But just as an attendee. Yeah, I attend ham conventions West Coast from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair enough. Do you have a sense of how many how many users you have of the software? I know it's been around for a while, so you must have some kind of idea of the uptake.
Hundreds. It really varies. I've seen that it does get a lot of use, and a lot of use on the website, particularly on times when there are natural disasters somewhere in the U.S. Back when there were storms back east, there was a massive number of people on the website, more people on the website and app when there are storms. That's one interesting thing that I've noted. Want to help to have good information and useful information on HearHam. And we like the other repeater book I've used. I like that one, but it's good to have two. It's always good to have two databases or two websites at least that have a listing of repeaters. That way, if one goes down or one isn't accessible for you, it works.
Yep, absolutely. No question that having more data and more access to data is much more helpful, and I can see how it would be helpful in an MCOM situation for sure. I think that brings us down to the end. I think we've got a great idea of what RepeaterSTART is, how to use it, where to get it, and its features. And we want to say thank you once again, Luke, for being here, for putting the software out there, for making it open source for sure. And hope everyone will give it a shot, whether it's for mobile or laptop use. Check it out. And thanks again for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, then. Well, I'll tell you what, Luke, we have a little bit of the end of the show. You're welcome to hang around, or you can go back to whatever it is you're doing, enjoying beautiful Oregon, I guess. And we're going to do the rest of the show here, but thanks again. And really appreciate it. And it looks like the guys who are in the chat here are going to give it a shot if no one else. And, of course, this will come out in a couple of days, and hopefully you'll get a few new downloads. We appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And with that, I guess we'll... Oh, and, of course, the information that we have and links to the various sites and where you can go for the database and all that information will be in the show notes. We will not forget about that. And with that, there's just a couple of things left to do, and they are announcements, because we don't have any feedback, and the announcements are, please help support the show if you can, and we mean with the monies. Listening is always good. We love to have our audience, and that's always appreciated, but if you can sign up for Patreon or PayPal for ostensibly less than $2 a month, it really helps out the show. We really appreciate that. And, of course, merchandise is available as well. Links to those things, all of them, are on the website, lhspodcast.info. And since Bill has done very little talking, I'm going to have him do slightly more talking and go through the new subscribers and stuff.
All righty. Yeah, so this is our new subscribers, new supporters, and live participants. No new subscribers or Patreons this month. No one on Facebook. Over there on the Twitter Xbot area is at BenMTL67. I believe that's right. If I can read the font properly. At Sleepy Old Dog. On YouTube, we had Chase Dumford. Dumphord.
Probably Dumford. I would hope it's Dumford.
Dumford. Okay. Yeah, I was not joining those together properly there. Dumford. Okay. On Discord we had MaxYN, Vid, and Programming. On Instagram we didn't have anybody. Over on Mastodon we had at McCornick and then at Tyler. On Blue Sky we had at MGS Sojourner. MG Sojourner, yeah, something like that. No merchandise sales on the mailing list. We had Cell join us, and in the live chat this evening, just checking to make sure that's up to date. Yeah, we had Mike K6GTE, Darren VK6EK, and Steve KJ5T on our impromptu different night recording session.
Yep, because we had to record late so we could watch the Kansas City Chiefs.
Get their butts whooped.
Yep, I already knew it was going to happen, so I was not disappointed.
Yeah. I was wishing it, so I was like,
well, I wasn't wishing it, but I knew it in my heart that that was exactly what was going to go on.
Yeah.
I told people a week and a half ago that if it came down to betting on the game, I was betting on Philly.
Well, you can't bet for Taylor, right?
No. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening to this episode, our deep dive episode on RepeaterSTART with our guest Luke. And we really appreciate him being here once again. And we really appreciate all of you, whether you're just a listener or a supporter. Every little bit helps out. And we wouldn't be here doing this if it weren't for all of you. We're looking forward to Hamvention coming up in not that long now. It's unbelievable. It's just a little over 3 months away. With that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Episode number 570 of Linux in the Ham Shack. And for the on assignment Cheryl, W5MOO, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD 73.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a community-sponsored podcast. Live recordings are Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time. Our homepage can be found at lhspodcast.info. You can support the podcast via Patreon at patreon.com/LHSpodcast. We're also on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Mastodon. Contact us via email at info@lhspodcast.info or via voicemail at 190954777469. That's 1909 LHS show. We also have merch. So until next we meet, remember to always heed your hedonism.